You're probably pouring this milk every morning without thinking. But what's been uncovered about Canada's biggest milk brands is alarming. We're talking recalls, spoilage complaints, packaging issues, and yes, ingredients and processing shortcuts that sound perfectly legal until you learn what they actually mean for your body, your kids, and your wallet. So for this video, we did the boring work so you don't have to. We combed through public CFIA recall notices, tracked patterns across major retailers, and compared labels and nutrition panels the way detectives compare fingerprints. Because when prices are up and trust is down, you deserve to know whether the brand you've been buying for years is genuinely high quality or just really good at looking wholesome. In this countdown, we're exposing 12 milk brands Canadians should stop buying, or at least stop buying blindly. Some will surprise you. One has a history that'll make you check the date twice. And at the end, I'll give you 3 milk brands that are actually worth your money. Ready? Let's pour the truth. Trust me, this isn't some milk aisle myth either. Number 12, Lactantia Ultra Pure. This one starts sneaky because Ultra Pure looks like regular milk that just works harder. Same white bottle, same cereal routine. Except you're quietly paying premium prices for a product that's basically been engineered to feel like a gym membership. Look at what you're actually buying. Ultra Pure is ultra-filtered milk, blended back together as ultra-filtered skim milk, plus partly skimmed milk, then topped off with added vitamins, vitamin A palmitate and vitamin D3, and, in the 2% version, lactase enzyme to break down lactose. That's it. No magic super ingredient hiding in there, just processing. So why does it feel like it should cost more? Because the label screams 50% more protein, less sugar, stays fresh longer, and your brain goes, oh, this must be the good stuff. But here's the uncomfortable math. On Voila, Ultra Pure 2% is listed at $6.99 for 1.5 liters, about $0.47 per 100 ml less. That's the kind of price that makes a normal 2-liter carton look like a thrift store deal. If you genuinely need lactose-free or higher protein, fine. But if you're buying it because you think it's cleaner or healthier, Ultra Pure isn't a new food. It's a new marketing lane. Next time you reach for it, flip the bottle and ask one question. Am I paying for nutrition or for a vibe? For households, that extra cost stacks up fast week after week. And if number 12 is the premium processing tax, number 11 is the brand that sells purity as a personality. Number 11, Natural Fine Filtered. Natural's whole brand vibe is we're the calm, trustworthy adult in the dairy aisle. And to be fair, the ingredient list can look beautifully simple. Organic, partly skimmed milk, vitamin A palmitate, and vitamin D3. But here's what makes fine filtered land on this list. It's not selling you ingredients, it's selling you a feeling. The product description literally leans on filtration as a flex filtered to remove all the bacteria, plus packaging that stays fresher longer. That sounds like you're upgrading from milk to milk with a security system. The catch is the price per sip. On Voila, Naturel's fine filtered 2% in a 1-liter carton shows up at $4, about $0.4 per 100 ml. And if you go organic, Food Basics lists Natural Fine Filtered Organic 2% in a 4-liter format at $9.99. None of that is automatically bad, until you realize plenty of conventional milk is still just milk plus vitamins, and it's regulated the same way. For a family buying 2 cartons a week, that filtered premium can swallow an extra grocery trip every month. So if you're buying fine filtered because you think regular milk is basically playing bacterial roulette breathe. Canada's dairy rules already require pasteurization for most retail milk, and you're not unsafe for choosing the cheaper carton. If number 11 is the brand that charges extra for reassurance, number 10 is where things get darker. Because the problem isn't marketing, it's what can happen when flavored milk goes wrong. Number 10, Nielsen Chocolate Milk. This is the one that feels too normal to be scary. You grew up on it. It's the lunchbox peace treaty on a rough day. But Nielsen Chocolate Milk isn't just milk. The ingredient list can read like dessert chemistry. Partly skimmed milk with added vitamins, then sugar, cocoa, color, salt, carrageenan, and artificial flavor. That's not inherently evil, but it is a reminder that you're not buying milk. You're buying a sweetened, thickened drink dressed up as wholesome. And then there's the part most people don't remember. Because brands hope you forget. In 2016, Ontario saw a listeriosis outbreak tied to the consumption of Nielsen brand chocolate milk produced at Saputo's Georgetown facility. The CFIA's investigation report says 34 illnesses were identified, and the agency found Listeria monocytogenes in a retail sample of bagged Nielsen chocolate milk, triggering recalls and an expanded recall of all Nielsen chocolate milk from that facility with certain best before dates. To be clear, outbreaks are rare, and the report notes corrective actions were taken. But rare doesn't mean impossible, especially with flavored products that run through equipment after pasteurization. Now add the price punch. One Ontario grocery listing shows Nielsen chocolate milk 2 liters at almost $8. For that money, you're paying premium for sugar, thickeners, and a history you probably never meant to subscribe to. And if number 10 shook you, number 9 is where the packaging looks innocent, but the economics get even uglier. Number 9. Beatrice. If you've got kids, there's a good chance this brand has lived in your fridge like a permanent roommate. Beatrice is one of those safe Canadian staples, until you see the kind of recalls it's been in. In 2016, a Beatrice chocolate milk product was recalled in Canada due to the presence of sanitizer. Not wrong label, not may contain. Sanitizer, a chemical hazard. The government recall notice spells it out. What makes that creepy is you wouldn't expect a chemical problem to announce itself in a sweet drink, you'd just pour it. And here's the twist. The treat products that feel the most wholesome are also the ones engineered the hardest. Beatrice chocolate milk isn't just milk and cocoa. The ingredient list includes sugar, carrageenan, which is a thickener, natural and artificial flavors, and added color like amaranth. And one 250 milliliter serving can hit 26 grams of sugar. Dessert wearing a dairy costume. Now add price to the sting. Beatrice 1% chocolate milk is commonly listed around $4.99 for a 2-liter jug at Food Basics. So if a family brand can land in a sanitizer recall and still sell sugar-thickened milk as a healthy pick, number 8 is going to make you side-eye every carton at checkout tonight. Number 8. Sealtist. Sealtist feels like background noise in Canada. It's the milk you grab on autopilot because it's just milk, right? Except this brand has quietly been pulled off shelves over something you do not want anywhere near your breakfast cereal. In January 2020, Sealtist milk sold in Ontario, and Quebec was recalled because of the presence of sanitizer. Reports at the time tied the recall to Agropur's processing, and news coverage noted at least one reported illness connected to the products. Read that again. Milk with sanitizer. And yes, Sealtest's basic 2% is simple on paper. Partly skimmed milk with vitamins A and D added. But here's the sneaky part. The moment you slide over to the fun versions, the ingredient list turns into a science fair. Sealtist chocolate milk includes added sugar, carrageenan, artificial flavor, and colors like Allura red and caramel coloring. So you're paying a premium for comfort and nostalgia, while trusting a supply chain that's already had a chemical hazard recall. And speaking of paying, Sealtist 2% milk is commonly listed around $6 for a 4-liter bag at Walmart Canada. If number 8 is the brand that proved even milk can get a chemical recall. Number 7 shows how this problem isn't isolated. It's a pattern today. Number 7, Dairyland. If you live out west, Dairyland is basically the default setting. It's the brand that feels most trusted, which is exactly why this next part hits harder. In 2021, Dairyland 1% partly skimmed milk was recalled in Canada due to sanitizer residue, categorized as a chemical hazard in the government notice, and it doesn't end there. In 2023, Dairyland lactose-free partly skimmed milk was also recalled due to possible spoilage. Different problem, same vibe. Something went wrong before it ever reached your fridge. Now, plain Dairyland milk is straightforward. Organic Dairyland 2% lists organic, partly skimmed milk with vitamins A and D added. But the real gotcha is the upsell products. Their high-protein milk can include water, milk protein concentrate, dipotassium phosphate, cornstarch, and carrageenan. Basically milk rebuilt for texture and shelf stability, and you pay for that trust. Dairyland 2% regular milk is listed at $6 for 4 liters at PriceSmart Foods, and it climbs higher at other retailers. Most shoppers never see these recall alerts unless they're doom-scrolling the recall database. By the time word spreads, the jug is already open, poured, and sitting beside the cereal for days. So if you thought sanitizer in milk was a freak accident, Dairyland makes it look like an industry-wide habit. Number 6, Quebon. This one flies under the radar unless you live in Quebec, and that's exactly why it belongs here. Québec feels harmless, local, familiar, the kind of milk people trust because it doesn't feel corporate or flashy. But once you step outside the plain white cartons, things shift fast. Take Québec chocolate milk. This isn't just milk with cocoa stirred in. The ingredient list includes buttermilk, modified milk ingredients, sugar, cocoa with soy lecithin, color, salt, carrageenan, and artificial flavor. That phrase, modified milk ingredients, is doing a lot of work. It's a catch-all term for concentrated proteins and milk components used to rebuild texture after heavy processing. In other words, this isn't milk with chocolate. It's dairy engineered to behave like milk. And here's the uncomfortable part. Québec itself warns that packaging and ingredient information can change before websites are updated, meaning what's on the shelf may not match what people think they're buying. When trust is built on simplicity, that gap matters. Price-wise, it's not innocent either. Québec chocolate milk regularly sits around $7 for 2 liters. That's not cheap treat pricing. That's premium money for a product that drinks like dessert. So if number 6 feels unsettling, it's because Québec sells comfort while quietly drifting away from what milk used to be. And if that made you uneasy, number 5 is where milk stops pretending to be milk at all and starts acting like a tech product. Number 5, Fairlife. Fairlife doesn't just sell milk. It sells status. The bottle looks different. The font looks modern. The message is loud and clear. This is smarter milk for smarter people. More protein, less sugar, lactose-free, clean, efficient. But here's the reality most people miss. Fairlife milk is ultra-filtered, concentrated, rebuilt, and marketed like a lifestyle upgrade. It's milk pushed through multiple processing stages so it can be sold as something superior. Not because cows changed, but because branding did. And people buy into it hard. Fairlife 1.5-liter bottles regularly sit around $6.5 to $7. That's nearly triple the cost per sip of standard bag milk in the same store. And yet it doesn't feel expensive, because it's framed as a health decision, not a splurge. What makes Fairlife land at number 5 isn't that it's dangerous. It's that it quietly redefines what normal milk should cost. Once Fairlife enters your fridge, regular milk starts to feel cheap, inferior, suspicious. That's the trick. Milk didn't suddenly become a luxury item, but Fairlife convinces people it should be and charges them. And here's where the list shifts, because up to now, you could still tell yourself, okay, those are specialty products, flavored milk, premium bottles. Maybe that's not my fridge. Number 4 is where that excuse disappears, because this next brand isn't niche. It isn't fancy. It isn't a health upgrade. It's the milk most Canadians buy when they're not thinking at all. Number 4, Lactantia, regular milk. Not ultra pur, not protein, just Lactantia, the red, blue, and white cartons that have quietly convinced generations of Canadians that they are the gold standard of dairy. This is the milk people trust, because it feels boring, and boring feels safe. But boring can still hide things. Lactantia has been involved in multiple CFIA recalls over the years, including milk products recalled due to spoilage and quality concerns. Not dramatic headlines, not viral scandals. Just quiet recalls that most shoppers never hear about unless they actively go looking. And that's the problem. Milk is one of the few foods people don't second guess. If bread smells weird, you check it. If meat looks off, you toss it. Milk, you pour it, trust the date, and assume the system worked. Add to that the brand's heavy reliance on long shelf life packaging. Cartons designed to look stable and untouched, even when the contents may not be. When milk lasts longer, people assume it's safer, but lasting longer doesn't always mean handled better. Lactantia isn't evil, but it's powerful. And when powerful brands mess up quietly, trust erodes silently. And if number 4 made you uncomfortable, number 3 is where trust turns into nostalgia, and nostalgia turns into blind loyalty. Number 3, Nielsen, regular milk. This is where things get personal. Nielsen isn't just a brand. It's memory. It's the milk your parents bought, the carton in your childhood fridge, the brand that feels so familiar you don't even see it anymore. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Nielsen has already appeared on this list for chocolate milk, but regular Nielsen milk deserves its own spotlight, because it benefits from the same trust halo without the same scrutiny. Nielsen is owned by Saputo, one of the largest dairy processors in the country. That scale means efficiency, but it also means when something goes wrong, it affects a lot of people very quickly. Most consumers don't realize how centralized milk processing really is. The carton in your fridge may feel local, but it often comes from massive facilities pushing out enormous volumes daily. That's not inherently bad, but it means quality control failures don't stay small. What pushes Nielsen into the top 3 isn't one single scandal. It's how easily people stop questioning it entirely. No sniff test, no label check, no hesitation. You trust it because you always have. And when trust becomes automatic, that's when brands have the most power and consumers have the least. And here's where the list gets genuinely uncomfortable. Because number 3 was about trust built on memory. Number 2 is about trust built on sheer dominance. This next brand doesn't just sit in fridges, it quietly controls the dairy aisle in entire grocery chains. Number 2, Lucerne Sobeys Safeway brand. Lucerne is the milk you buy when you think you're making the neutral choice. It's not flashy, it's not premium, it's not screaming health claims. It's just there. Front and center in Sobeys, Safeway, IGA, Freshco. Same shelves, same coolers, same quiet assumption that store-brand milk must be fine. That assumption is exactly the problem. Lucerne isn't a small local dairy. It's a private label powerhouse tied directly to one of Canada's biggest grocery chains. That means when Lucerne wins shelf space, other options disappear. Fewer choices, less comparison, less pressure to compete. And here's the part most shoppers don't realize. Private label milk is often produced by the same massive processors that supply name brands, but under tighter cost constraints. When margins get squeezed, consistency and quality become targets, not guarantees. Lucerne milk products have appeared in CFIA recall notices over the years, including recalls tied to spoilage and quality concerns. Nothing dramatic enough to go viral. Just enough to quietly pull cartons off shelves while most customers never hear a word. And that's the danger of private labels. When the store owns the brand, the incentive to publicize problems shrinks. The recall happens. The shelves get restocked. The trust remains untouched. Lucerne feels safe because it's familiar and affordable. But affordability backed by grocery giants isn't always about helping shoppers. It's about controlling habits. And if number 2 shook you because it lives inside the store you already trust, number 1 is the brand so common, so normalized, so unavoidable, it's practically invisible. And that's why it had to be last. Number 1. Great value. Walmart milk. This is the one people trust without even realizing they're trusting it. Great value milk isn't bought because people choose it. It's bought because it's cheap, it's everywhere, and it's attached to Walmart, a brand people subconsciously assume has already checked everything. That assumption is the problem. Great value milk is a private label product, which means Walmart doesn't produce it. It contracts large dairy processors to supply milk under the Great Value name. The actual producer can vary by region. And that lack of transparency matters when something goes wrong, because consumers don't know who is accountable. Over the years, Great Value milk and dairy products have appeared in CFIA recall notices tied to spoilage and quality concerns. These weren't loud scandals. They were quiet removals. Cartons pulled from shelves due to product quality issues that most shoppers never hear about unless they actively track recall databases. But here's the part that makes Great Value number 1. Price pressure. Great Value milk consistently undercuts national brands. That pressure doesn't stop at the shelf. It travels backward through the supply chain. Tighter margins mean tighter timelines, heavier reliance on ultra-high volume processing, and less tolerance for loss. When milk is treated as a race to the lowest possible price, even small quality failures can ripple across huge regions. And unlike a named dairy brand, Great Value doesn't have a reputation to protect. Walmart does. So the product stays anonymous, even when issues arise. Most people don't read milk cartons closely. They don't sniff test. They don't check recall alerts. They pour, drink, and move on. That's why Great Value isn't just number 1. It's the most dangerous kind of trust, the kind you don't even realize you're giving. So, after all that, here's the obvious question. If so many popular milk brands come with shortcuts, quiet issues, or marketing smokescreens, is there any milk in Canada you can actually feel good about buying? The answer is yes. But notice the pattern. The brands worth trusting don't shout the loudest. They don't try to reinvent milk. They don't sell fear, protein hype, or ultra anything. They focus on one thing: doing milk properly. Here are 3 brands that actually deserve a spot in your fridge. Good brand 1, Organic Meadow. Organic Meadow doesn't feel like a brand built in a boardroom. And that's the point. It's a farmer-owned cooperative, meaning the people producing the milk actually have a say in how it's made. No private label mystery, no race-to-the-bottom pricing. No, let's see how far we can push the system energy. Their milk ingredient list is refreshingly boring. Organic milk, vitamin A, vitamin D. That's it. No rebuilding, no ultra-filtering, no texture tricks to fake freshness. What really sets Organic Meadow apart is scale, or rather, the lack of it. They intentionally avoid mega processing facilities that push out insane volumes at high speed. Smaller scale means fewer shortcuts, better oversight, and fewer chances for problems to snowball. They're also transparent about sourcing, animal welfare standards, and processing methods. Things most big brands bury in fine print or avoid entirely. Is it the cheapest milk on the shelf? No, but it feels like milk made for humans, not margins. If you want milk that still feels like food instead of a product strategy, Organic Meadow earns its place. Good brand 2, Avalon Dairy. If you're in British Columbia, Avalon Dairy is one of the quiet success stories of Canadian milk. Avalon is family-owned, locally processed, and intentionally old school. Their milk isn't trying to be trendy or futuristic, it's trying to be reliable. They pasteurize and bottle locally, which shortens the distance between cow and carton. That matters more than people realize. Less travel, fewer transfers, fewer hands touching the product. Avalon also avoids heavy-handed processing tricks. No ultra-filtering gimmicks, no protein hype, just milk that behaves like milk should. What really stands out is consistency. Avalon customers tend to say the same thing. It tastes the same every time. That's rare in an industry where normal milk can vary wildly week to week. It's not a brand trying to dominate the dairy aisle. It's one trying to quietly earn trust. And in a market full of noise, that restraint says a lot. Moving on to the 3rd milk brand you can trust, Hewitt's Dairy. Good brand 3, Hewitt's Dairy. Hewitt's Dairy feels like a throwback, and that's exactly why it works. Based in Ontario, Hewitt's has built its reputation on minimal processing and traditional methods. Their milk is non-homogenized, meaning the cream naturally rises to the top. You have to shake the bottle like it's 1995. That's not a flaw. That's proof. Non-homogenized milk skips one of the most aggressive processing steps modern milk goes through. The result is milk that feels closer to what it actually is. Fat, water, protein, naturally existing together. Hewitt's ingredient list stays clean. No rebuilding, no stabilizers, no lab coat energy. They also keep production deliberately small, which limits how far and how fast their milk travels. That reduces the kinds of issues that tend to show up in massive, centralized supply chains. If you want milk that feels alive again, milk you actually think about when you pour it, Hewitt's is one of the few brands still doing it this way. Milk shouldn't be complicated, but when branding gets louder than transparency, even the simplest food can turn into a guessing game. The goal here isn't fear, it's awareness. Because once you know how the dairy aisle really works, you stop shopping on autopilot. If this video changed the way you look at milk, share it with someone who still thinks it's just milk. Subscribe if you want more everyday foods exposed, because this list doesn't end here.